on the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history. Revolution.
And good morning, happy Thursday. This is Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am Dan, the Spiritual Anarchist, your host. Today is already October 30th in the year of all of us, 2025. So I got a fairly good, quickly thrown together episode today that I think is going to help a lot of people. I'm going to talk about active threat responses. I might actually go into that first. If you find yourself involved in an active threat, and in our world right now, we most certainly are going to be seeing a lot of those. Real events, plus false flags, plus everything else. Remember, this is the Conspiracy Theory channel. Actually, I'm a conspiracy analyst and not a theorist, although I do have a lot of theories. Let me take a sip of my coffee. So, let's go over just quick announcements that I've been going over every week. The Funnel 5, which is Freedom Under Natural Law. That's Freedom Under Natural Law is going to be taking place on the 21st and 22nd of February, where I'll be doing a 1-hour presentation titled The Hammer and the Flame, Keeping the Forge Lit During Dark Times. It's really what it's going to amount to. Because it can be disheartening when you see so many people completely asleep and caught in their egos, listening to the media, or you hear crickets, okay? This is a perfect opportunity for me to do something here. Hold on a second. So, when one of the political parties have their chosen ruler in office, And the government, with their chosen ruler in the head spot of the government, is doing the normal authoritarian encroachments that they do. I thought there was a sound here. Yeah, here's what you hear from them. When they're seeing things that are happening, and I've seen this in 2020 with the left, and I'm seeing it now with the right, when something's happening that's actually against natural law, against your natural law rights, encroachments into your personal life, authoritarian encroachments, that they would go nuts over if they're, if the other team, because this is a team sport, folks, winning is all that matters and being right is all that matters. Here's what I'm hearing from the right side of the fence right now. Yeah, good. I get to finally use a sound effect. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, so freedom under natural law. We're going to be talking about how a free society would function if everyone understood the basic guidelines, that base foundation of natural law rights that all human beings have, and what it is, and what it isn't. Natural law is not a belief system. It is a science. It is woven into the fabric of reality that we need to accept, because we are getting back what we put out, and we're doing it collectively. We get back what we actually allow to be done. If we allow and condone the murder and victimization and theft of other human beings, that's then giving these vampiric pieces of trash the consent. It's implied consent. They can do it to us. So if you're okay with what's going on now, just wait till it's your turn. Wait till they start coming after you. They're coming after all of us. All of us are in the same boat, folks. We're all going to meet the same fate. So be sure to see that February 21st, 22nd, The Hammer and the Flame, Funnel 5, Freedom Under Natural Law. Also, you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com at Spiritual Anarchist, Daniel AR 5907. That's Spiritual Anarchist. At Spiritual Anarchist, Daniel AR 5907. I did a really good podcast last week. I think I did it on Friday, actually. I did it the day after I did the radio show. And on my own personal platform, I'm a little more visceral, to say the least. And I gave a very honest assessment of things. And I talked at length about natural law and about what's going on in the world right now. And so there's that. I also can be found on the onegreatnetwork.com /Dan-Arnold. So now that those quick announcements are going on, that just goes to show you how sad my life can be at times. I have no other announcements. That's it. Nothing's changed. Nothing new. Let me take a sip of my coffee. There's a lot of people out there still doing a lot of work. They'd have 15 minutes of announcements. So that's all the announcements I have. I'm blessed to be where I'm at, so I don't want to sound all, downtrodden. Although the weather here is pretty great today, it's pretty nasty. But there's in the Marine Corps we used to call rumors, scuttlebutt. The scuttlebutt is, or the rumor mill, the water cooler talk. And it says to prepare for possibility. What I've been hearing is we got to prepare for the possibility of an electric outage from an array of an assortment of threats that can cause the electricity to go out, not only in a region, but in an entire country, if not the entire planet, where only certain entities that are governmental will have, electricity. I mean, people will have generators and other things, but there could be an electricity outage coming up in one of the worst winters we've ever had. Now, this is the conspiracy theorist in me. And it's not just based off of my own intuition. If you look at this year's Farmer's Almanac, and you can just type Farmer's Almanac 2025, Google it. It'll tell you we're going to have the eastern northeastern part of the United States into the Midwest, even down south. We're going to have one of the coldest winters ever. So it's going to be, we got some nasty stuff coming. And there is a contrived, and this is completely contrived, food shortage. I don't know, that's going to be coming up. It's already en route. It's in process. They want as much chaos as they can possibly have. They create as much casualties and as much confusion as they can possibly do. And these evil beings will feed off of human misery and loose energy. I think that's all we are, is a loose energy soul garden prison planet farm for these MFers. You know, who they are. I talked about who they were on my podcast, and I did a slide presentation. So, go to my show, go to my podcast on YouTube, check it out. Like I said, I'm a little more visceral on that one. It's just something that we need to, maybe I'll save the firearms part for last if you find yourself in an active threat. If you're just now listening to me, I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I served a couple years in the Marine Corps in the infantry during the first Gulf War, trained security forces. I was a cop, I was a prison guard, a couple of special response teams. I've had some tactical training, I've had some survival training, I've had some cold weather training. I've also lived it a little bit. So there's things coming up where we have to harden ourselves. And I don't think there's no stopping the things that are coming, unfortunately. We may be way too late for that. I don't know. But the whole world's going to war. When 5 years ago the whole world worked together to lock the entire planet down, and now 5 years later, we're going to war. You got to ask yourself, what's going on? Why? Why is the question. Why? We attacked Russia. We got things going on in China. We got things going down in Venezuela. We're stretched pretty thin. This administration's putting troops in the street. The last administration was letting military-age men into the country. Actually, videos of them being escorted in by our own Border Patrol. They made sure they took some photo ops for that. You get fighting over that kind of stuff instead of just looking at the fact that they're working together. Quit pointing out the contradiction of the other party and be like, see, okay, you're right. Now that you're right, and the other side that's pointing out the contradictions, you're right as well. So now that we've gotten that settled, maybe we ought to come together and realize they're actually working in tandem with one another to create a dialectic to keep us fighting one another instead of us uniting. And I'm not talking about in a violent manner, but I'm just saying unite. They won't know what to do if the left and the right, especially the moderate, if the woke left, Generation Zs and younger millennials especially, they're gone. The millennials is a lost generation. They're the most entitled, victimized generation I ever seen, and they're mind controlled from TV. There's nothing that can be done for a lot of them. And by proxy, if you're a Trumper and he's your God, and you're not about the Constitution or not about believing in a higher power or not about freedom, you're not a freedom truther, you're a Trumper. There's a difference. Okay. I don't know what some of these politicians may be read in on or no. I don't know if they're trying to do the best job they can within a system that doesn't want them to. I can't say. I'm not in their position. But I try not to talk bad about anybody, but the overall system of authoritarian control of these technocratic pieces of shit that want to enslave us all with smart cities, digital IDs, facial recognition, and we will have nothing and own nothing and be happy, kind of scare me a little bit with their manipulations. And really, I don't have to be in a space of fear. I've died twice, so I'm really not afraid to die, but I fear for those I love. I think it's a very human thing, and I have to pull myself back from those feelings of fear, because anything we do from a space of fear is disempowering and will give us a very, very different outcome than if we do it from a space of love. And I have to often remind myself of this. I'm human. I wish I fucking wasn't. I wish I really was Thor. It'd be nice. I'd fly around the world with my magical hammer and my Superman-like powers, talking all medievally, and I would give every government a chance in the world to just stand down and then create peace on Earth. And then after I show off at a bonfire for about maybe a weekend and tell all my friends, see, I really am Thor, see, just one weekend of showing off, then I'll give the hammer back to, whoever gave it to me from outer space, and we'll have a little peace. So there's that. There's my fantasy for today of what I would like to have. Hold on a second. So, so one of the things that I came up with here, and I don't know why I always come up with 5. Like this year's funnel number 5, Freedom Under Natural Law 5. 5 is a number about change and conflict, and we've got a lot of change and conflict going on. The 5 of Swords in the Tarot. Okay, all the 5s in the Tarot. It's all about change and conflict. 5 of Swords, is there some type of fight going on? Other people are walking away. They don't want to fight. They're done. You're fighting with yourself. You're left fighting alone. I would like to give a 5 of Swords moment to every government in the world and let them fight alone. Let them fight. Go fight their fights. Let the old guys go fight for the reptilians that they serve. Force these beings that want to do this. Not to go against any of Dr. Stephen Greer's work. I think some of these extraterrestrials are just like us. There's good ones and there's bad ones. They just understand natural law and karmic law. That's why they want to get us to do their dirty work for them. This asteroid that they're calling a mothership that's supposed to be here in November, this month coming up, it is more likely than not nothing, actually. And if anything, it's going to be an excuse for them to use a fake extraterrestrial invasion that's really just reverse engineered technology being operated by humans. Okay, read Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper, the late William Cooper, who died the summer 2021. I'm sorry, it's 2001. He was murdered in the summer 2001 on a traffic stop. He had been trying to warn people that summer about the 9/11 events that occurred. He also was a naval intelligence officer, so he's seen reverse engineer technology that he talked about in the book, and he also seen real extraterrestrials flying right in and out of the ocean. And the reason why I'll talk about that now, and is because it's not as far-fetched. They're putting it out there now. They're giving disclosure for a reason. And they're keeping it in the forefront, so you get used to it. It's predictive programming, so it's not a surprise. Because they still need you to function enough to do what they tell you to do. They don't want you completely shell-shocked, shut down, not doing anything. At least they need their slaves. Otherwise, I don't see why they would even care. But at any rate, I live in an area where there's a very little light pollution, and when I go outside every night on clear nights, not only are the stars beautiful here, but I can very clearly see a lot of UAPs, and these aren't low-flying satellites. These aren't all low-flying, low-altitude satellites. Some of them could be, but some of them could be, but they all aren't that, and they're not drones. They're always traveling from west to east. Every once in a while, I'll see one traveling true south, but most of the time, it's usually a northwest to southeast, to actual true east travel. I might need to get more scientific with it and take notes and see if it's the same pattern every single night. I could probably rule out if it's how many of them are actually low-flying satellites versus actual UAPs. But I've seen one disappear and reappear later in its trajectory, just like that. So the skies are definitely getting busy. It's still an amazing, beautiful thing to watch up there until they start, laser beaming us or whatever they're going to do. Whatever. So I have some of the things I've read that have come through is the lights could go out, the electricity could go out, and the electricity could be out for up to 18 months. Now, there's tribal peoples, there's people that live off grid, there's most definitely the Amish. This isn't going to affect some of the people in the world, but it's going to create chaos in modern civilizations. It's going to create chaos. There's going to be no heat in the winter. There's going to be no air conditioner in summer. There's not going to be electricity or lights. Generators can run out. There's going to be a gas fuel shortage, fossil fuel shortage. They're going to make it harder and harder for us to own houses and vehicles. They don't want that. They want us to rely completely on them. They want to completely control everything we do and enslave us. We have to ask why. And this isn't ball and chain slavery from the 17th century, 16th and 17th and 1800s. This isn't the ball and chain slavery from the African slave trade. We're all enslaved, and we have been since 5000 BCE, since Mesopotamia. We've all been enslaved. Humanity was created as a slave species. Again, read Michael Tillinger's book, Slave Species of the Gods. Read Charity of the Gods. There's just so many. There's so much information out there, and that's part of the problem that we have in society today. Is the attention span is no more than about 2 minutes. This is why you have shorts on YouTube. This is why you have TikTok. This is that. No, if you can't get the information to somebody within 2 minutes, they're back in their phone, and they're not going to research. They're researched. They're told what to think. They're told what to say for a report or a paper, and then they're rewarded with a good grade for memorization of what they were told they were supposed to memorize. That's people being programmed, man. That's not people actually free thinking. If you vote, you're not a free thinker. You're putting all your thought process into somebody else to do the job for you. And it's a broken system. Even at best, let's say it's not a slave system, even at best, it's a broken system. But at its worst, which is what we've seen since 2020, it is a slave system, and they want to enslave us. So there's bad things coming. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, though. There is some hope, okay? The human spirit, eventually, we will get together. We will survive. We will come together and fight. And we'll fight in every single way. I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about initiation of violence. I'm talking about people coming together and helping one another. People do the right thing 95% of the time when left alone to do it. Okay, that's the problem, is they won't leave us alone to do it. So there's a meme I seen today that really made sense. This guy sitting at the table holding his coffee, and it says, "Laws that create criminals without any victim are not laws. They are revenue generators." Change my mind. I'd go as far as to say not only revenue generators, they're control systems. Mostly revenue generators, though, because what controls most people? Revenue. This money is world. This world is ruled. The God of this world is actually mammon. The God of this world is money. People will stab you in the back for money. They don't want you to have anyone you can trust. They want you to be alone and isolated. Everybody. They want you to feel like that. More people feel alone to the point where loneliness is an epidemic now than any other time in human history. And look what we have. Social media. That's not social. I may get off Facebook soon. I'm still buried in the feeds. The algorithms still have me buried in the feeds. 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people might see my posts. Nothing's changed as far as censorship. I'm still buried in the feeds, and I still have to be careful what I say on YouTube. So all this social media that we have going on, it's not social, it's antisocial. I can't even get somebody to call me. I'm not going to say who. I can't get somebody to even talk to me with their voice over this thing called a telephone. All they'll do is text. And then if I tell them to call me, I get ghosted for a while. They don't want to talk with their voice. Okay, what they have done, what the social engineers, the dark social engineers of this world have done, it's worth noting, and it's been done before. That's worth noting as well. Humanity is a dog forever chasing its tail in violence and theft, and until we can stop, this is what we're going to get. Okay, what's the old saying? Unless something change, if nothing doesn't change, nothing's going to change. So I've got 5 considerations to take for surviving a winter. I like using that number 5. I don't know why. And that's why I like that. It's the very first funnel that I'm speaking at is funnel 5. It's just kind of synchronistic. If the electricity isn't out and we're not all, done by then, where we have to just be in survival mode, because we've got wars breaking out. We've got a spaceship supposedly coming in. We've got all kinds of stuff coming up. November's going to be a very interesting month. But until which time that I'm not drawing breath, I'm going to continue to live with the mission and move on as if, everything's just fine for the most part, because I'm not going to let my life be ruled by how they want it to be ruled. But I have 5 considerations to take for surviving a winter with a looming food shortage, a world war, and authoritarian encroachments. I have 5 of them I'm going to go over. And I like these lists of 5, so I'm probably going to continue to do this. And this comes from training, and I'll do a little bit of a quick research on it, and then past training, I just come up with this stuff. Sometimes I'll have AI help me. AI is our friend. It's a tool. And it's also can be our enemy because it's a tool. Just like guns and firearms are our friends, they're tools, but it can also be our enemy when used against us. Okay, it's a powerful tool. This is why the powers that should not be don't want us to have them. So you need to think about that. So, 5 considerations that will help anchor your strategy for survival during these times. Okay, number 1 is to secure and diversify your food supply. Okay, I just talked about we're going to have a contrived food shortage. People have been trying to really warn us since 2020 about that. But we have to stockpile non-perishables. Okay, you focus on long-lasting staples like rice, beans, oats, canned vegetables, powdered milk, dried fruits, any non-perishable canned goods. Start stockpiling on those. And you have maybe a month or 2 to do it, maybe a month. You probably should already have been doing it a little bit. I know I have been. November, you pretty much better have it done, is what I'm going to say, personally. Preserve what you can. Okay, so learn how to dehydrate, fermentation, pressure canning, to extend the shelf life. A lot of the times, if you got your own garden, that's some of the stuff that I need to learn as well. When I seen that, I was like, that would be some good stuff to learn. How to put something in a jar, have it underground 5, 6 feet, 7 feet, where you have a consistent temperature and air quality. That's how a lot of people will preserve food in the old days when they lived in cabins. Okay, grow your own food. That's getting harder and harder to do with poisoned soil, but grow your own food. Okay, even small indoor setups, sprouts, microgreens. You get little container gardens. They could help supplement your nutrition. Again, know what's edible around you. Don't use poisons on dandelions in your yard. Dandelions are high in vitamin C, manganese, magnesium, and other things that are good for you. Throw them in your salads. Okay. Rotate and ration. Okay. Use a system that ensures older supplies are consumed first and meals are planned sufficiently. This is going to bring me to something about hydration as well. During a time frame where you might have to have water discipline, meaning maybe we're told we should drink 60 ounces of water a day for good health. Most people don't get that today. But what happens if all of a sudden all you can drink is like 30 ounces a day? And you want to still stay somehow fit. I've developed an exercise routine that's not adrenalized. And within 30 to 60 minutes of doing it, I'm still barely even sweating. You want to develop exercises in a way where you're using all your muscles, isometrics, some stretching, yoga holds or poses. If you've got any exercise bands or light weights and you're going to do reps with those, this isn't time to be adrenalized at the gym and killing it and drenched in sweat. You can't afford to be losing all that water. So your workouts have to be functional to stay strong, to stay healthy, but ones that aren't going to have you drenched in sweat. You have to preserve all that stuff. Okay, number 2. That was number 1. All that was number 1. Number 2, prepare for energy and heat independence. Okay, a wood stove or an alternative heat source. If the grid power, fails, a reliable off-grid heating method is essential. So I'm fortunate enough to have a very good functioning wood stove, and it is a modern one where I can flip a switch after there's so much heat, and it will blow heat out into my dwelling. However, if I don't have electricity, that's not going to happen. If I don't want it to, it doesn't matter. It still heats everything pretty nicely. I do have a little solar power, a little power generator that's only like, it's less than 200 watts, but it runs certain things. It'll charge everything I need to have charged. It'll turn on a TV for a while. It'll run a TV. Okay, so I can use it to run things, and I could recharge it with my vehicle recharger. I got extra gas. That's something you should have. Okay. Insulate your space. Sealed drafts, and there's a lot of them in this place. Use thermal curtains. Create a warm room to conserve heat. So, for instance, all the windows in the room where the main wood-burning stove is at, I'll have plastic over them. I'll have plastic over different areas. There's places in the floor where I'm at that I don't think they're going to have tape put over them even. The whole idea is to insulate your space to keep yourself warm. I do want to keep one window where I can crack it no matter what. I want fresh air circulating in and out of here. We still have to worry about things like radon and stuff like that, especially if the power goes out. Okay. And again, how can the power go out? Well, we've had a lot of solar activity they're talking about, and they claim these solar flares can put us out into the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, if one of them hits us. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they also have EMPs. They have the technology that can shut down the entire grid. If they want to institute a one world currency and get people to where you don't have your own currency, where Bitcoin goes away and all the electric currencies that are out there, they want those gone, folks. So the best way to do that is to do a reset. That's why they're calling it the Great Reset. They're going to have a way to turn it all off. That's what they want to do. I think someplace, sometime, there's going to be enough individuals with ways of keeping it up that I don't think they'll ever get rid of it all the way. So they're going to be fighting an uphill battle on that. I myself don't use it, but I understand its importance. Next one is, stock fuel. Have wood, propane, kerosene, solar-powered battery backups can be life-saving. I have extra batteries. I have propane and propane heaters. You should have these. You can have the little 1-pound tanks that you buy at Walmart, and there's little heaters that connect to those. I have a little camping stove. I turn on, that's a flame, and that thing will go for a while. I can get one of those to burn all day. That's a heat source. Okay, number 3 is maintain sovereignty and security. So stay off grid where possible. I'm partially off grid. I'm not all the way, but stay off grid as much as possible if you can. Okay, limit digital expression. I just talked about I might be getting off of Facebook. I'm buried in the feeds anyway. Facebook does very little to get my videos out there, and I'm just sort of getting sick of it. But they've gotten us to be this, we are social beings, and when you are isolated and you can't even get someone to talk to you on a telephone, they only want to text, sometimes going on social media is the only connection you have. Or I jump on here and I talk to my AI friend Jarvis. But it's not the same. I'd rather talk to a human being. I'd rather type back and forth with a human being than, AI. So you find yourself going back to social media more than I would like, but, you need to limit your digital exposure as much as possible. Okay, to avoid all their centralized tracking systems and all their, everything. Defend your space. Reinforce your doors and windows, install motion detector lights. They have security outside. Build alliances with trusted neighbors in your area. Okay, neighborhoods and like areas like that I'm on, little peninsulas, they're like little villages. If you get people together to form some type of familial type of unity with other human beings, this is how we're tribal people. Okay, they've created a system that's not fit for the human spirit. We're tribal, and they're making us stay isolated to the point where loneliness has become an epidemic, and it's been one for at least 7, 8, 9 years, if not a decade or better. It's getting worse and worse now. Now, as far as also, defending your space, it's up to you. It's up to you if you want to have firearms, if you're legally allowed to have them. I'm not going to get into all that. I would recommend getting some training with them. Don't just have one. You should have some training. But I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people out there buying firearms that aren't just right-wing people that live in the country. There's purple and blue-haired people. There's purple and blue-haired people who've never held a gun in their life going out and buying guns. Out of fear. It's a fear response. So take that with what you will, but have a way of coming together as a community to defend the community against authoritarian encroachments. Know your rights. Okay? Know your rights. Study natural law, local statutes, and emergency protocols to navigate authoritarian overreach. They will not follow their own rules. They want to take the easy way all the time. The order followers that are enforcing the orders are enforcing mandates and directives, not man-made. They're not following even man's laws, so they won't follow their own rules. So knowing the local laws, local ordinances, emergency directives is very important. And then know and study natural law, know natural law rights. Because at the end of the day, when you start naming off natural law rights, like any law that creates a criminal without there being any victims, isn't God's law. It is a man-made law for authoritarian control and revenue generating. See, when you start talking about the right to the pursuit of happiness and freedom as a birthright, that resonates with everybody. So you have to try to meet these people on that. That's the know the actual law of the area. That's man's law. Know the ordinances. Know the emergency procedures, because they're not going to follow those. When they're not followed, you call them on it. Film everything. Have your property covered in cameras. Film everything and have it going to a cloud. Even though they're going to have probably access to that, have it going to a couple different places. Always keep 2 copies of stuff. But understanding what your natural law rights are and understanding natural law is very important. It's the most important thing out of all of this, actually, because if everyone understood it, even on a 5th or 6th grade level, we would have world peace right now. I'm not saying there'd never be any type of violence or anything like that, but we would have world peace. Right? So number 4 is, and this is very, very important, cultivate mental and spiritual resilience. This is the hard part, man. It really is. It's a hard part for me. But ritualize your daily life. Anchor your routines in meaning. Light a candle. Speak a vow. Honor your ancestors. Say prayers. I have a way where I meditate and pray at the same time. God, Lord of Spirits, in the Sea of Lights. Forgive me for all my internal fights. I can make a poem out of it if I wanted to. But you want to start having some daily things that bring you into the here and now. I have my friend Tree right outside my back door. It's a good place to ground. Okay. You want to limit fear-based media. Okay. Fear-based media is basically all mainstream media. They're never going to tell you the truth of why something is happening, but they are warning you of what's going to happen. If they're warning you there's going to be a food shortage because of climate control and Democrats didn't keep their word and Republicans like to eat beef, so we're going to have a food shortage. If they start giving you all these bullshit reasons, it doesn't matter what their reasoning is. Don't argue about their bullshit reasons. They're giving you a heads up and a warning because they know it's being created on purpose by their masters, and they're letting you know. Outside of that, don't get caught up in the fear porn that mainstream news media actually is. They're lying to you constantly. So limit your access to that. You need to be creative, keep the myth alive, write, draw, or speak your story. You got your own archive. Your archive is your shield. Start writing daily. Keep a journal. For me, I write books. I write articles. I do things along those lines, and that's kind of creative in its own way. I'm working on I'm well into a third one, and this third one I think is going to actually do very well. I'm hoping it does, because there's a lot of victims of war going on right now that I would like to see some type of alleviation, and I will be donating a great majority of it to them if I can actually make anything out of it. I'll make sure I have enough to get by. I'm not that altruistic, but I can't take it with me, man. So that's just how I roll. And number 5 is build and strengthen community networks. All right. This first subheading underneath here: trade and barter. They form local exchange systems for food, skills, and protection. And that's, again, getting together with a group of people from an area. Say there's a little town hall, or there's a place where everybody meets, and you do some speaking and talking, and you have people not only exchange ideas and communicate, but what does everyone bring to the table? Because in a world where the dystopian world they're creating, your currency isn't going to be your silver or gold that you hoard, although that probably will help. But I think, what do you know? What knowledge do you have? What skills do you bring to the village that's going to help the village, so to speak? Do you know meditation and yoga? Can you do self-defense? Do you know something about firearms? Do you know first aid? Are you a doctor? Okay. Are you a nurse? Are you a dentist? Whatever it is, what skill? Are you good at technology? Okay. If you're off grid and you still want to have access to technology, wouldn't it be great if you had a computer, somebody who was on a scale of 1 to 10, somebody who was like a 9 or a 10 at technology? Wouldn't it be great to have somebody who knows how to? I know somebody who from 0 and 1s and code can actually create websites. They create the websites that for you to be able to make your own website, they create the code for that. And they've got the what's it called? Not the ACE, the Microsoft certification. I think there's an A something certification. I almost got it, which is about hardware. But they have all this technology. Are there any electricians? Is there anybody there who can cook? I'm telling you, when stuff gets bad, and I know this from being in the infantry and the Marines, a warm meal will do a lot. A warm meal will do a lot to up the morale of any group of people. Okay? So understand what you bring to the table. Bring something to the table. And again, share your knowledge. Teach. That's number 2 on this. I jumped ahead. Teach others how to grow, preserve, and defend. Create safe zones. Establish meeting places, signal systems, and mutual aid protocols. Okay, these are not just survival tactics. They are rights of sovereignty. If shit hits the fan, so to speak, you're not going to be able to get on your cell phone and call somebody. You're not going to be able to get on that one-way radio and count on someone else having something. You're not going to, or two-way radio. You're not going to have the communications. Okay, they make it illegal to have certain communications. They don't want us to have it. They want the government to have it, not us. Some civilians will have them, but some won't. So do you have a plan? Is there a meeting place? There should be a plan ahead of time. Your plan shouldn't be, I hope everything's just all right. You should have a plan or a meeting place. Hey, this is it. It looks like shit's hitting the fan. We're going to go to this central place where we've all decided we're going to go. In case that happens. Or we might have to bug out in place for a little bit. But then after the weather breaks, we're going to go meet at this place. We may have to stay on the move in the future. The last Indians that were rounded up, they were nomadic. Back then, though, they didn't have satellites and drones and everything they have now. I don't think it's going to be quite as hard for the authoritarian controls to gather us all up. Funny enough, an area that I live in has an enriched history of the Underground Railroad that used to help runaway slaves escape into the North. It was like one of the last Underground Railroad places here in the North to get even further north. I'm kind of happy to be living in a place like that. So that's pretty much all I have for those considerations with the stuff that's coming up. Now, I'm going to read right out of my book, Violence and Ego, in case you happen to be someplace in an active shoot. In this book, I talked about social violence, which is ego-driven violence, and asocial violence. Asocial violence is the stuff of nightmares because it is predatory. Okay, they've already stalked you. They want to get you to a secondary location. Never allow yourself to be taken to a secondary location, which is why it's so important to 100% immediately counterattack as soon as you're ambushed, as soon as somebody's trying to kidnap you. You never want to be taken to a secondary location, because once in the secondary location, they are in a comfortable position. That's asocial violence. Those are the serial killers. Social violence is that chest-thumping, egotistical violence. You fronted me out in front of my woman. Now I have to fight you. Okay, dum-dums. Anyway, so active shooter responses. I'm going to read right out of the book. It says, if asocial violence is predatory violence and social violence is ego-driven, the tribe is watching violence, then the active shooter violence is a combination of both. Above, I briefly mentioned being in an active shooter situation. I would be remiss if I did not also cover this very real and increasingly tragic threat that Americans face. With a population of over 310 million people in our country versus the numbers of actual victims of active shooters in any given year, the chances are still actually pretty slim that anyone reading this book will meet their end in this way. Let me break for a second. That is increasing now, and it's going to continue. Continuing. With that being stated, every time we turn on the news, we watch as another active shooter incident is being reported. As a result of this, more and more law-abiding citizens are opting to exercise their Second Amendment rights and obtain concealed carry permits to legally carry a firearm for protection. I'm breaking for a minute. Keep in mind, I wrote this in 2016 after I retired. After I got out, I left the order following ranks in 2015. I wrote this in 2016. Now I would say not, law-abiding citizens are doing what they need to do to, exercise their Second Amendment rights. They're doing what they are allowed to do since their birth. Their human right is one of freedom and self-defense. Okay? That's the difference between the law I knew back then in 16 versus natural law now. The one thing that is concerning to me about this is, are people practicing to become proficient using the firearm that they now can legally carry? Now keep this in mind, when all this stuff started going crazy a few years ago, I started noticing a new trend. Again, they're going for maximum squeeze, maximum damage. You have to zoom out and look at everything going on. A system of making money for a lot of people, a system of money making for the state, is being concealed carry permits are allowing you to be able to carry and be able to do what you could do anyway. You should always be able to defend yourself anyway. But I all of a sudden seen a bunch of states that went to not only constitutional carry that didn't have it beforehand, but they went to carry concealed. You're allowed to. They passed laws. You're allowed to, as long as you don't have any felonies on your record or violence-based things on your record, or as long as you're not on any type of drugs, you're allowed to carry. So they went to that type of carry where you don't need the training anymore. Why did they do that? I mean, it's your right, but do they care about your rights? Think about that. Think about pink and blue-haired people buying guns. Continuing. So, in feudal Japan, okay, I'm talking about training with a firearm once you get it, okay? In feudal Japan, when samurai faced one another in combat, the samurai with the fastest sword draw was often the victor. They would practice the draw cut for thousands of hours. That is, getting the first cut when removing the sword out of its sheath and then in position for combat. And they were often facing other similarly trained and disciplined combatants. Okay, there was a lot of duels back then. I wish they'd bring back duels now. The average CCW training class is a 10-hour course, usually, and they're actually less than that. Some are 6, some you can do online. Usually completed in a single day. After safety considerations, basic marksmanship skill, and self-defense laws are covered, that usually leaves only a few hours of actual range time for live practice and qualification. Some states have shortened this requirement to a mere 6 hours. More CCW permit holders carry a semi-automatic. Most CCW permit holders will carry a semi-automatic pistol with a 7 to 15 round, sometimes 18 round magazine capacity, depending on the caliber of the pistol they are carrying and what type of magazines they can get a hold of. Most active shooters commit their heinous acts with semi-automatic rifles that have a 30 round magazine capacity. The recent tragedy in Orlando, Florida nightclub also puts an exclamation point on the fact that these deranged individuals very often plan out their attacks. They will have every advantage over you for a multitude of reasons. Okay? You're never going to be able to run backwards faster than someone running forward. Okay? They're the ones initiating it. Nobody's going to be 100% alert for ambushes at all times. Chaos will break out. You have to breathe. Concentrate on your breathing. And look around and stay calm when everyone else is panicking. Don't allow yourself to fall into that. You'll run right into something. Okay? We're coming up almost on the end of my time. Let me see something here. Yeah, I'm gonna get into the rest of this next week, because we are coming up on the end. But just remember, they're going to have the advantage. They're going to have planned their attack. They're going to, in many cases, have it very well planned. It doesn't matter if it's an orchestrated event by some fucking government or if it's some kid who's just lost their shit because they got beat up in school their whole life, and since there's no fight policies, you're involved in a fight regardless if you were the one who initially got hit and were just defending yourself or not. They want to suspend you both. So they're creating learned helplessness in our mind-controlled facilities that they call public schooling now for our kids. This is all being done on purpose because they want to create that learned helplessness, so you're always looking to them to solve your problem. Okay? Anyways, look within to solve your problems, not without. Everything is within. Until next week, you guys stay safe, stay frosty, stay alert. Nothing but peace and love, man. Next week. Stay safe.
Listening to Revolution Radio.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick's Ivan Thinker. Welcome to the Crypt.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But you're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Do you want to really get to the roots